Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. In a few moments, I'll be sharing my thoughts and feelings on the foolishness known as the Married at First Sight San Diego Part 1 reunion. And for this review, I will simply just go through the happenings of the episode, and I'll provide some commentary to go along with it. So without any further delay, let's just jump right in. We start the reunion off with Kevin complimenting the men and women on their looks, assuring them that they will get into everything. And if you know Kevin by now, then you know that he has to be one of the messiest reunion hosts on reality TV history. But Kevin starts with the softball questions by asking the cast members what was it like to watch themselves on TV. And the cast members give some interesting replies. For example, Nate talks about being able to see his blind spots, and Alexis talks about learning how to say the word celibate. We also spend a few minutes on Stacia and Nate's sex life, which was kind of silly in my opinion, unless there's a sex tape to go along with the details. But out of nowhere, Kevin stirs the pot, and he asks a very specific question that he was likely tipped off about. The question was, has anyone unfollowed anyone else on social media? This is when Nate takes the lead and accuses Justin of unfollowing everybody on social media. Kevin gives Justin a platform to explain himself, and this is when Nate turns into Rafael Barba from Law & Order SVU. Nate applies the pressure and tries to interrogate Justin on the witness stand. So essentially we're barely 5 minutes into the episode, and we get the Nate and Justin showdown. They jaw back and forth. Justin stands up, he takes his jacket off, and he acts like he's about to lay hands on Nate, but Alexis escorts Justin off the stage to de-escalate. And in my opinion, this entire sequence made everybody on the stage look bad. Kevin looked bad because he likely knew what reaction he would get from putting Justin on the spot like that, and he decided to ask the question anyway. Justin looked bad because he tried to label Nate as gay simply because Nate complimented him 2 times on his looks. And while I don't believe that Nate is gay, I do think that the pot is calling the kettle black when Nate tries to play Justin as if he were sensitive. Who really cares if a person that you barely know and you're not friends with blocks you on social media? It is apparent that Justin blocking everyone, especially Nate, must have ruffled some feathers and has caused them to get in their feelings. But the rest of the cast also looked bad, because when Justin was escorted off the stage by Alexis, the rest of the cast trash talked him behind his back. And with this being a reunion episode, if we're going to get into the realm of foolishness and debauchery, then we might as well walk all the way through the door instead of tiptoeing around the situation. Meaning, if the cast members really have issues with Justin, then this is the episode to air them out and let Justin stand on how he feels about it. No sense in talking about folks when they're not there to hear it or defend themselves. But I digress. When Kevin is finally able to regain control of things, we get to briefly visit Mitch and Krysten, and surprise, surprise, they're still separated, but they are on amicable terms. There wasn't much to talk about with them in this segment, so I won't spend any additional time talking about it because it adds no more value to the review. But then we move on to Miguel and Lindy. We learn that since the show ended, Lindy has moved into Miguel's home, and she has been making changes. Look folks, I gotta be honest with you about this segment. I felt that this show spent too much time on Lindy and Miguel, as they seemingly continue to give the perfect rehearsed answers to all of Kevin's questions. It just seems like they're afraid to let their issues play out on camera. Then we get issues like the ones we saw at the retreat, and it makes both Lindy and Miguel look crazy. But the only other thing worth mentioning is that Lindy broke down and she did one of the hardest things that a woman in her position could ever do. Lindy hyphenated her last name. That's right folks. After Lindy got on Miguel's insurance, moved into his house, and is running up those utility bills, she rewards Miguel by hyphenating her last name. Now it's this foolishness right here that makes the rumors of Miguel and Lindy being divorced as of today very believable. But I have nothing more else to say about these two. Then we have Nate and Stacia. During this segment, they talk about their wedding day, as well as what we already know about their time on the show. When it comes to the new happenings with this couple, they reveal that they are alternating where they stay for weeks at a time. Meaning that for the first 2 or 3 weeks, they stay at Stacia's place, then the next 2 or 3 weeks, they stay at Nate's place. And while Nate claims that this arrangement is the way that it is because he has 8 months left on his lease, in my opinion, This living arrangement, as well as some of the things that they said during the segment, offers some validity to the rumors that him and Stacia are no longer together. I say this because when asked by Kevin, Stacia still feels that she is not getting what she wants from Nate when it comes to his emotional vulnerability. And Nate continues to tell Stacia that he doesn't move that fast. But we shall see how the two fare during the part 2 of the reunion. We then revisit Krysten and Mitch as they talk about their marriage and what went wrong. And throughout the segment, Krysten and Mitch are essentially repeating the same talking points that Lindy and Miguel repeated during their segment. When asked by Kevin, Krysten shares that if Mitch said yes during decision day, that she would have said no, which in my opinion is a bald-headed lie, considering how she reacted to Mitch's decision and how she wanted to keep that door open in the future. But we learn that Krysten is now living in New York, and she's been on a few dates since the show ended. Next up, we have Binh and Morgan, and this was by far the most disappointing part of the reunion. When I knew that they would be on the reunion, I was almost certain that Kevin would get to the root of what happened between Morgan and Binh, and I was also hoping that we as the audience would get some insight on what Binh said or did that was so harmful to Morgan that she would treat him like a criminal. But Kevin used kid gloves when dealing with Morgan, and Binh was acting like a timid, scared puppy that was afraid to speak his mind in front of Morgan. It was also disappointing to see Kevin just throw Justin under the bus when asking Binh if he felt betrayed by Justin having their conversation on speaker. But Kevin didn't mention Alexis and how she was the one that snitched, which caused all the madness. But the segment ends without us learning anything more about the bad things that Binh said regarding his marriage to Morgan, and I felt that this was a huge missed opportunity. Lastly, there's Justin and Alexis. We learned that they consummated their marriage on the honeymoon, but apparently Alexis and Justin have different definitions for what consummated means. According to Justin, if Alexis simply let him put the head in, and he shot his load off, then that's consummating the marriage. But for Alexis, she needs her back broken into, and she needs to skeet on the windows and the walls for the elements of consummation to be met. These two get into an argument over what's truth and what isn't. And normally I would question Justin's version of events, but after seeing Alexis throughout the season, I have a hard time believing anything she says when she's in the presence of Justin. The episode ends just as things are getting good with the segment, and I'm sure part 2 will pick up where this segment left off. But overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I will give this part 1 reunion a solid 2. Aside from the blow up between Nate and Justin, a large portion of this episode was considered filler, and as previously stated, I thought there were some missed opportunities to learn some new things about the couples that we didn't know already. There were some surprises that were revealed on the episode, but in my opinion, this part of the reunion wasn't really necessary. About an hour and a half of this episode could have been cut down, and it would have had the same impact on the viewer. But that's just how I feel. And this marks the end of the review. If you have any questions or comments related to the review or the episode, feel free to drop them below in the comment section so that we can talk about it. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.